broadcast of anything?
Depends how newsworthy it is. I think if you talk about the BBC specification where they have certain standards, certainly off the SDI, well, you could record externally. I just can't remember. I'm on the internal recording in HD.
Will that pump 4K out of the SDI?
No, 3G. Yeah, HDMI you could get 4K out of it.
Right. And does it digitally crop and send?
Sorry?
If you want to do 2K,
yep.
Can it digitally crop the picture and then digitally like zoom?
I don't know. The camera itself was pretty much a box on the stand, so there's still a bit of work to go to have the thing ready for market. So I'd say it'll be a bit more watch this space. I think you'll probably see a working unit at SEMPTI in July. Yeah, that was on that little chat was about the information we have on it at the moment.
Right.
Panasonic, last year at NAB released their Videocraft 35 and also the Videocraft High Speed. They also showed a split system option. This is the head so that we can split the head from the recorder, which can be quite useful for crane shots and things. That was what they had on the stand. Getting feedback. The camera itself, they've been going through quite a bit of development work, and some interesting things that they have with this camera. I don't know if they really talk about it here, but a unique feature is they actually have a dual ISO rating, or dual native ISO rating, if you like. So you might say the standard ISO for a camera might be 800, and as you keep winding up the ISO, as you get higher and higher, you start adding noise. This, in effect, has, I suppose, two readout points that they can, or two readouts and processing ways to get the information off the sensor. So when you get to, I think, about the 4000 ISO, then it gets into its second native ISO mode, and then it goes all clean again. It's quite an amazing thing to see in low light. So I'm not sure if I've got any vision of the Videocam, but the camera's been out, it's available now, and Panasonic's certainly doing a lot of work with that. Another camera that came out, which is more a live production camera. Sony released I suppose, the first true 4K native OB camera, and when I call OB, meaning that it's 3 2/3 inch sensors, so I can use all the existing big lenses and everything off, I suppose, our existing range of OB cameras. Now that was all quite nice, that it can do 4K. This unit can also capture in 4K at the BT 2020 colour space that I was talking about earlier. So this camera is probably the first of the new series of cameras that can truly do 4K in the wide dynamic range. One of the tests I'd seen, I suppose, when I was at NAB, Sony did have a demonstration in live production with high dynamic range, and that was really interesting, because when I go back to the whole sport analogy, that you go and watch a football match in the sun on the MCG in a Saturday afternoon or Etihad, and you'll see the camera operators have to choose their shots depending on where the players are, whether in the shadow or not, because they have to choose where they're going to expose. So if they're going in the shaded areas, they're not able to really take wide shots, because you're going to expose to the dark area and everything else is going to be blown out. It's going to look really bad. With these cameras, some of the demonstrations that we'd seen in Las Vegas, you know, it's in the desert, so it's fairly sunny. even outside the convention centre, where you've got concrete everywhere, harsh sun coming down, we were able to go and look at how we could see into the shadows, but still maintain correct exposure in the bright areas. And having that dynamic range, I think, would really make a big difference in the way that you would choose your camera angles and how a director would have a bigger range of shots available. From a CCU control perspective, it would probably also mean that the CCU operators don't have to do as much, because the cameras natively have this wide dynamic range. They can, in effect, set an overall look, let it go, make sure the camera's exposed, but they don't have to play with too much else as far as adjusting gammas or anything to try and see into different areas and try and, I suppose, compress as much as possible into the narrow dynamic range that we have with current digital video.
So are they releasing new lenses for this camera, or are they going to utilise the existing 2K?
They can use existing lenses. However, yes, there is a whole new range of 4K lenses coming as well. But one thing that we have with these OB cameras is also things with the Sony. They have their ALAC lens correction, which can correct for chromatic aberration in the horizontal and vertical axis. So they can hide some of that sort of stuff, if you like. The other great thing about this camera, and probably where you'll see most of its initial use, is that it can also do 8 times super slow-mo. So for your live TV and things like that, it'll put out 400 frames a second that we then go and record into our replay servers, which are generally our EVS servers.
So that itself's not a recorder though, it's just a camera.
Just a camera. But it'll put out 400 frames a second over a few 3G SDI connections.
I just want to know if it's a recorder.
No. However, I did see, getting back on the sort of behind the scenes demos that some of these companies do, Sony showed an 4K super slow-mo camera that did 8 times frame rate. So if you think 4K, 400 frames a second, that was pretty insane. And that had an inbuilt recorder.
What are you recording to?
Well, it's an internal storage. It wasn't removable, so it had 10 gigabit Ethernet, and you go and move your files around from there. But yeah, big amounts of data. So I suppose, if it comes down to it, your 4K, if we convert it into megapixels and how they count in digital still cameras, if you think about taking a 12 megapixel still 400 times a second, that's pretty neat. But this thing here for the 4K super slow-mo I should add that new camera that they showed could do HD super slow-mo 16 times. 16 times normal real time, so 800 frames a second at 50p. But the 4300, we'll see that camera pretty soon. It's becoming available pretty much now, but I think this will become the new default super slow-mo camera we see in live TV production. Yeah, depending on options, it starts at about 90 grand plus lens, and then we'll go up to about 120 depending on options. So take 10. Yeah.
Are you going to be getting one?
Probably.
Oh, there you go.
What happened with testosterone in the 2020s colour space on the transmission when people got Rec 709 boxes?
I don't know yet. You'll have to crunch it down. So I'm sure there'll be processing algorithms like a down conversion we have to HD. I mean, HD to SD, the HD colour space is actually wider than SD anyway. So we do colour space conversion there. So that would be possible, but I think the first thing would be actually broadcasting the 4K, and I I don't know if I can really see that in the horizon anytime soon with free-to-air. So I think it would be a it would be alternative
So we'll
delivery
see
methods.
benefits in Australia in about 15 years.
Yeah, but then we'll be up to we'll be up to 16K because that's what the Japanese will want to sell new TVs on. I should add that to see the extra pixels, you also need to be closer to the screen, because once you get at about 3 times you're away from the screen, 3 times the screen height away, you start losing the effect of the extra pixels, so I might as well just look at it in HD anyway. Forget about that. Another thing that Sony have been doing a bit of work on lately was live streaming out of their cameras, and with some free firmware updates on some of their existing camera range, we'll also be able to stream live out of the cameras with the addition of a 4G dongle. Sony also, as part of that, released a new network receive station. So the idea being that a broadcaster or someone can receive these streams from the camera, decode them to SDI, and then put them into their normal broadcast infrastructure. So the idea of having this streaming capability built into a number of the cameras means that, well, I suppose you have that capability for free. And for other cameras that don't have that, they've also got a box. We'll just run a little video here from Nick at Sony that can cover off to what we're talking about here with these live streaming solutions. Hopefully. Here we go.
One of Sony's key themes here at NAB this year is wireless streaming. In fact, almost our entire XD cam range of shoulder mount and handheld cameras will very shortly be enabled for wireless streaming. And the holy grail here is to be able to stream content live back to a broadcast station or another base at low cost. So this camera here, for example, is fitted with an optional Wi-Fi adapter, which can then Wi-Fi across to a 4G device, such as a phone or some kind of a 4G dongle, and via the 4G network go back to a broadcast station. Costs involved, well, the Wi-Fi adapter around about $1,200. A number of our cameras actually have built-in Wi-Fi capability. You've got your phone, of course, and then you've got a receiving station at the base. So, you know, the receiving station probably around about the $6,000 to $8,000 mark, but that receives multiple streams from multiple cameras. So it enables live high-definition pictures and sound to be brought back from pretty well anywhere that there's a 4G network available, without using a very complex multiple phone bonded system, which certainly exists out there, but at much higher cost.
And a lot easier than carrying around a live view or Dejero unit with you.
Yes. Yeah, I'll get to some things on that later, because I'll show you some pictures of some stuff we did on the weekend with some 4G things. Another thing that this is probably really boring for all of you, because we're talking about archive. Now, archive for us, we do a lot of work with a lot of TV shows where we process all of the material off their camera cards. This could be, you name what camera, whether it be the Arri Alexa, C300, Sony F5, all these sorts of things. The fact is they all shoot on a removable media that is not our archive. So we need to copy it to something. And at the moment, most of our jobs that we do where we have to do an archive copy goes to LTO tape. And LTO, whilst it is fairly dense storage-wise, is, you know, to be honest, a real pain in the butt to use. Because we're also used to random access, the LTO system, when we go and find a bit off the tape, you might take a minute and a half to go and find the bit of material. And if we want to get something, we always have to restore it back to a hard disk. So that adds an extra bit of overhead, if you like, to be able to get material back. Sony's optical disc archive system has the same sort of idea as an archive, but it's using optical disc media. And the great thing about that, one of them is that it has a longer archive life, so good 50 years, and certainly from our own point of view with all of the XD cam optical media that we've had, we don't really mind whatever XD cam disc we find. If we've got one out the back that's 5 years old, we're happy, we'll format the disc and start using it, and it'll record just the same as it did the first time. So the reliability we've had out of the system has certainly been proven to be very good. We're quite excited about this idea. The second part, of course, random access. And the random access and its ability to read high data rates off means that we can even play material directly off these XD cam discs. We don't have to restore back to a hard drive first. So there's a number of instances where we have large archives. It can really speed up the time to be able to access files and look and see what you're getting. We've got another little video here to talk a little bit more about the optical disc archive. So we'll just run that through now.
Sony first showed our ODA, or optical disc archive, I think 1 or 2 NABs ago, and the product and the system continues to develop. So ODA simply, we see as a potential storage replacement for the LTO tape. And it involves a cartridge of 12 optical discs using the same technology that we've long been using for XD cam. And the basis of the system is a drive, seen here just in its desktop form, and these certainly can be used as a desktop backup drive for editing projects or other types of storage requirements. But really the system is designed more towards deep archive solutions. We have up to, at present generation, up to 1.5 terabytes available on a card like this. Write once, and up to 1.2 terabytes available in rewritable. And in the next generation, we expect to see that write once capacity increase to something like 3.6 terabytes. And so for deep storage type applications, we have an ODA Petasite. Petasite is our deep storage archive robotic system, basically a frame that incorporates a couple of drives and then a configurable number of bins, each of which can hold 100 of these cartridges and be accessed by the robot. So these are used for backup systems in broadcast and other scenarios. Here in the States, we've just heard recently that the White House has adopted this system for some of their archival storage needs. One of the first customers here in the US, a major customer, was the Golf Channel, and there are a growing number of installations that are making use of optical disc archive. One of the benefits we see over, well, a number of benefits over LTO tape. First of all, this longevity. We say this has got a 50-year archival life. Don't forget, as an optical disc system, it's being read by a laser. There's no contact, so we're not talking about a complex tape drive or magnetic tape. Of course, LTO also is only backward compatible over 2 generations. So each time you reach the 2nd generation away from where you are, you need to migrate your content to the next latest generation, whereas this will be ongoingly compatible. And the other thing is robustness. I mean, this is an optical disc. We've had certainly situations with the optical discs that are used in XD cams where they get wet, or they get a bit of mud in them, or there's a disaster befalls the storage medium, and they can be resurrected quite easily. Whereas a magnetic tape, of course, it's somewhat more complex. And I suppose the final big advantage is random access. It's a disc-based system. You can randomly access the segment of data that you need. Whereas, of course, with a tape-based format, you have a search time to find that content.
So I know it's boring, but for anyone of you who's ever lost information, it's going to become more and more important, because none of you are recording to an archive grade medium if you're recording to a card and a camera. So even in single drive type instances, this is I think probably the best blend of operational ease of use and storage density at the moment. So watch out for it. We'll certainly be doing a lot more with it over the coming. The base units, I think about $3,000 to $4,000. I think, yeah. And the media itself. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was it's meant to be roughly comparable with existing LTO. But if you want to go and look at it another way, when you think about the 1.5 terabytes in a read once, that's certainly a hell of a lot of videotapes. And in comparison to the days we were buying video recorders, you know, this unit is still probably cheaper than a DV cam deck and can record 4K or 8K or whatever. So the idea of an archive system is that when I go and look at it, and the way that we see it with our clients is, previously we had post houses that would go and buy 4 or 5 digital Betacam decks in their facility, and these things were $90,000-$100,000 each. For probably less than the cost of one of those, they can get a storage system that they can basically scale infinitely, and they're not limited to recording a particular format. So that's really the benefit where we go to IT-centric networks, that you're not necessarily locked into a particular format or a manufacturer as far as how you shoot, which is good. Another little thing, Sony released a 4K little player. So this uses Sony S/S card, so something that I suppose can play back files from Sony F5s or F55s, has multiple 3G SDI out, so you can play up to 4K monitors natively, and saw plenty of pictures out of it. They play pictures and it looks great. You can also use it as a copying device for copying out to USB drives and things as well. So you can, I suppose in that respect, use it as a way to make sure you've got your recordings. Other things here, now I'm going to other areas. Anton Bauer, who for many, many years had their own gold mount that was incompatible with every camera Sony ever built, have now made a V-Lock native battery. So, which is quite good because Anton Bauer have always made good batteries and been very robust and reliable, but it's always been a pain to have to adapt everything to a gold mount if you've already got Sony cameras. So they're coming through, and they have a little LCD readout. LED. No, it's LCD. A readout which give you your time remaining to the second, so you can watch your countdown for when your battery runs flat. So you just hope that the time remaining is more than what your interview's about to go for. Crozier released a new production matte box, their MB565, and a lot more configurable than previous Crozier models. We've even got rosettes on the side, much heavier duty construction, very easy to add filter trays. So really nice design, and I think they've definitely really thought about it, and certainly much stronger than previous Crozier models. Light Panels released some new LED Fresnel lights. These are quite compact. These things are only about that big, about that wide, so not huge, but look really good. And certainly LED output, is probably all of you have used LED lights over time. We've seen each generation, their intensity to come up massively over the last few years. So you know, we can use them for all these different applications in smaller fixtures because we don't need a huge number of LEDs to get a certain light level. But having said that, light panels 1x1 range like this, there's newer, better, faster, and the light output of these things is quite significant now. So we have their bicolour, which can do tungsten or daylight, and you can tune it in between. DMX controlled, but these things are certainly with LEDs now. The technology is throwing out a huge amount of light. Rode have gone and released a number of new bits. They've got the new shotgun mic, and then we have their different filters here for a high frequency boost or also roll off. I think some of that is to try and also go and match some of the characteristics of things like Sennheiser 416. Very well priced, and then you've got another one with an internal battery, so really quite nice. Rode also released a 2.4 gig digital radio mic system. So I think we're just waiting for these things to come in now, and we'll see how they go. I'll admit we're all a bit apprehensive to put more stuff on the 2.4 gig range, because in a lot of systems we have nothing but trouble. So we'll really wait and see on how they go. But the benefit is that it's license free, so and it's quite cost effective. You're sort of talking around $500 mark, so it's quite a bit cheaper than the Sennheisers or the Sonys. It's a matter of seeing where we go with 2.4 gig, and certainly I know that some of the systems that I've had, we've had digital camera link systems running the 2.4 gig range that we've basically had to retire because of congestion in 2.4 gig. So we'll see how these go. Sennheiser also released a new digital radio mic system. I haven't got pricing on it, but they're in 1.9 gig range, so another band, which I think being away from 2.4 is attractive, and we have a range of different models there, and also they've thought about DSLRs for getting mini jack into them as well. Atomos with their Shogun system, which was released last year, they've basically released a lower cost version of it to strip the price down, and certainly the Shogun's very interesting unit because it will do 4K, and they also announced with the Shogun we can do the new Avid DNX HR codec, which was a compressed 4K codec that Avid have released as a new subset in their DNX range.
What's the price like? Would you be out here for that? 1,700 US.
That'll be about 21 Australian. I mean, where we're sort of looking at the moment, with the dollar tanking in the last while, costs have changed probably about 20% in real terms from about 12 months ago. So it's been unavoidable. There's been price rises, but yeah, a year or so ago it was pretty easy. The US price was basically Australian price, but yeah, at about 20% you normally get close at the moment. Sound Devices also released a new range of portable recorders. So we also ProRes based. The Sound Devices one's pretty robust. Certainly they felt like the strongest of everything out there. They were quite nice, and they've got Gorilla Glass, so I'm sure no one's ever broken an iPhone screen, so it must be good. But we'll wait and see. But that's what they've got through, and we actually have a little video of one of the Sound Devices people talking about the Pixie 5.
I'm Nick Jungles with Sound Devices. I'm the Director of Hardware Engineering, and this is the Pixie 5, our new monitor with recording capabilities. The Pixie 5 is meant to be a monitor attached to a camera. It's got several features for a professional, so that they can actually use it directly attached to their camera, as well as record in ProRes to the local media. Some of the main features are false color. We've got both 4 and 12. We've got a touch screen that allows you to control the menus just by touch. Additionally, we have a non-touch mode, so that you can actually use the rotary encoder to select and the buttons to use. So you don't have to use the touchscreen if you don't want to. Some of the main features are touch to zoom. You can touch and drag. You can turn on peak meters, and then you can actually do your focus pull zoomed into the screen. It's got a 2x and 4x mode. We also have waveforms, and the waveforms have several modes. These are pretty standard: Luma Green, RGB overlaid, and RGB parade, as well as vector scopes, histograms, standard markers with multi-frames, safe areas that can be overlaid, center grids, crosses, dots, however you're comfortable working. The recorder itself can record up to 6 variants of ProRes from 36 megabit all the way up to 500 megabit using the 444XQ Apple ProRes codec. It also has lookup table support for log encoded signals coming from Sony, Canon, and ARRI. It does support record triggers over HDMI and SDI, as well as the naming from the cameras as well. It records onto a speed drive. Speed drive clicks into the back. It's a small form factor drive. It's mechanically interlocked, such that when it's attached, it is not going to be removed until you'd like it to be. It's a USB 3 into your computer, so it's very fast for ingest, and it is not a proprietary media in that inside of here is an M-SATA card. These are standard cards that you can buy at Amazon or Newegg or Tiger Direct. And we will sell this to you empty. We're not trying to sell you media, we're just trying to sell you recorders. Or we will sell it full. It's entirely up to you. We do have approved media so that the media itself will be fast enough. Not every MSATA can sustain the constant rates of recording. So we do have a list that we do publish. We have a 250 gig that's been approved now. We're looking at a 512 gig and a 1 terabyte as well. So that's the Pixie 5.
Say no more. I suppose the good thing about this, full-size BNC connectors, HDMI, and as he talked about there, that the little dock at the back for the storage, we can put a standard MSATA drive, and whilst you might not see them, a lot of laptops, if you pull the back off them, that's what they actually have inside. Ross Video released a new version of their Carbonite switcher, which has been very popular over the years, and certainly one of the most popular vision mixers, or larger format vision mixers that we've sold. So they released a new Carbonite Black. So I suppose, I don't know, I probably think if they've gone black, I have a feeling that probably the owner of Ross Video has bought some fancy AMG Mercedes. New panel, new processor, so 3 mix effect rows, and I suppose all the same usability as the existing Carbonite, but more. So more inputs, more outputs, 3G and Ultra HD also available, and that will be shipping quite soon. So price-wise, you're looking for this thing about 75,000 Australian, in that sort of area. So
James, did you mention a price for the recorder?
no, I haven't.
$11.95 SRP. So that's the most exciting about it because of the build quality and what it can do. It's really well priced as well.
And what
Yeah.
was the screen resolution? 93 by 1200?
It's very nicely built. You know, even the little buttons are sort of the little ball bearings on springs behind it and stuff. It feels quite solid. TerraDeck, they released some new things at NAB, and you know, because we need to do everything on an iPad because that's what the cool kids do, we now have a TerraDeck Live Air app. So for $99 US, you can connect your things into this and stream out to the web like the cool kids do. This is, but having said that, genuinely it's quite interesting to see how the form factor and some of these things is getting down for, I suppose, entry-level products. And in fact, we've got a little video of the unit now, which we can run.
So I'm Dylan with TerraDeck. I'm here to introduce the new Live to Air app. It's a small video switcher within an iPad. It's just a iPad Air. It's not tethered to anything. All of our feeds that we have set up are over Wi-Fi. All of our encoders can stream to the iPad as video sources, and there would be inputs. We have a couple cubes here and a video. You can also use the iPad camera as a source, but we know not too many people are going to use it. On top of the sources you can use as our encoders, you can also use B-roll if you need commercials or maybe replay, because we're also going to add recording within the app. We have some quick little intro, outro stuff. It's nice if you're doing small productions. So it has a traditional T-bar, so you can transition in to your live view. This is the preview where you set everything up. You set up your overlays, your scoreboards, your titling. We have a lot of stuff built in. So this is your live view, which is what your CDN destination would view. You can use custom destinations, but the ones we support highly are YouTube Live, Ustream, Livestream. You just log in if you already have an account and you're good to go. So on top of the sources that you can use as a stream, we also have some built-in kind of templates. So you can use groups of stuff and you can have multiple sources viewed. We also have chroma keying built into the app, which is a pretty powerful feature to have. Compile all your sources into one, or you can have them just follow the live feed. Let's see. So as I was saying, we have built-in scoreboards, built-in titles, and just generic text. All of this is editable. Oops. So you can change the title, the subtitle. We have a few different styles. We're going to make this more flexible in the future, so you can import your own backgrounds or your company colors or anything like that. But overall, it's a very powerful product on the iPad, and I think it's going to be a very good consumer level switcher to get people into the business. For $99, I think it's going to take off.
Yeah, it's the future of the industry. Anyway, sorry? I don't know on all the fine details. Assume that it'll be a new one. Yeah. Teradek also released another unit, the Video Pro, which is another unit to be able to stream to various CDNs, which also got another little video on that we'll just run through now. But so if we just run the Video.
Hey, it's Dylan with Teradek again. This is the Video Pro. We've added a lot of new features, but the biggest one is the Wi-Fi chip. It's much more powerful, and the cellular bonding. So we have two just iPhones here, and they both have cellular plans. The process is you set up your Video Pro in access point mode as if it's a router, and you would connect your cell phones to that access point. So both of these phones are currently bridged with the Video Pro, and they are together combining their data source to be able to push out to the CDN.
The bonding, I know with Sony talking the other day with single event, same time, they had about 65,000 starters, and they had a massive OB set up in Austria where we were sending pictures back. Now with the very short turnaround we had, we weren't able to get any of our usual providers for helicopter links or anything like that, and with the time that we had, pretty much had to say we're going to have to do this thing off 4G. We didn't have any external connectivity in or out, so that meant that we had to rely on our mobile network for all of our communications lines to Austria, communications lines to the mobiles, and so we had to do quite a bit of work there. But amazingly, it all worked, and this was for a 6-hour job. So I was just going to roll some images to show the results of what we got.
That means the car's coming, yeah?
All off 4G that we're able to run, and we were able to run that for over 6 hours. And the client was very happy because we're able to deliver pictures. But quite interestingly, we were seeing a lot of the returns and things from different places around the world with, high-end links. And, we have dropouts and things from time to time as we go through different networks, but where you'd get some breakup, but probably no different to what we would have had with a helicopter-based link. And probably saved the client about $20,000. So we were quite pleased with that, and certainly with a little bit more development, we know that we can get it even better. But we pick our targets. We did that in a metropolitan area. So that was between. We started in Elwood. The runners went down to Carrum, then came back and finished in Melbourne. Here's some more stuff here. And of course, it started at 9 o'clock at night because it was all. It was meant to. The event started at 11 a.m. GMT. So add 10 hours, we start at 9 o'clock. So that's the sort of thing that happened with some breakup. We get a little bit of a shudder from time to time. But if any of you have ever watched an event with wireless links, that's part of the risk. But I would say out of this that the uptime we had over the whole event for 6 hours was 90% plus of getting good vision. And We've had instances with links at 20 metres where we haven't hit that target, so really quite impressive. We're using the Teradek Bond system with multiple 4G dongles and going back to Teradek decoders, but I suppose what I'm really saying here is that if you pick your situation, some of these things with 4G can actually work. I probably wouldn't do it in the middle of the country, but for this situation it worked. I should add, even the downlink that we were bringing this all off was also off a Telstra 4G dongle. So we were totally reliant on 4G. We had no hardwired network connection in that whole job, and were able to deliver it to the end client, and they were very pleased with the results. So technology's moved fast, because I wouldn't have even dreamt of doing that a few years ago. Teradek and their Bolt system, which we've used a hell of a lot for point-to-point links, for steady cams or running across rooms, all this sort of stuff. They've also announced support for 3D lookup tables, which is great. So then directors can actually look at what the signals genuinely look like, rather than wondering why the pictures are dropped all washed out and why have you overexposed. The Bolt series have proven to be a very reliable series of video senders for us, and the Bolt 2000s, I know that in our rental division we have a number of those, and they get used on quite a few places, certainly with things like your MasterChef and a lot of these shows where they want wireless links. There's a lot of these things running around. Getting to edit stuff. Avid released a new thing called Media Composer First, which is their Media Composer software for free. So that was quite a big bit of news from Avid to go and release something along those lines. It's a fully featured piece of software. You can actually edit stuff on this. It has some limitations compared to the purchased version, but for people that, if you have fairly simple edit requirements, it's got 4 video layers and 8 audio tracks. So for assembly type edits and all that sort of stuff, you're not going to have a problem at all. And even for probably broadcast news edits and things like that, it probably still has a more advanced feature set than what they would need. It's designed to certainly encourage people to get into the Avid platform, and there are, your projects need to be stored into their, they have a new cloud system, so I have to store the projects in the cloud. And we also have an ability to migrate to the full version if you decide to in the future. Well, they haven't said it doesn't. Their limitations have been more to do with the number of video and audio tracks. Certainly the latest Media Composer is fully 4K ready, and I think with their next version then you'll have the ability to set whatever frame size you want, including 8K. You just have to be able to play it back. But they're doing a lot of work in the optimization of all that sort of stuff. Avid have released a new I/O. Now you may have seen this earlier tonight. Basically, Avid have partnered with Blackmagic to build their Avid Artist DNX I/O, or Avid will say partnered, we'll say rebadged. But same sort of I/O as the Blackmagic, and also same sort of compatibility with different applications. So it'll run with Premiere, run with Final Cut, run with Media Composer, DaVinci Resolve, all that sort of stuff. So it has the same flexibility there. The major difference is that it has the Avid DNX HR codec on board. Now, when we get into 4K and high data rates, actually uncompressed 4K at 50 frames a second is massive. And I know that a couple of years ago at the last Empty show, we did a 4K demo reel. A lot of it was all shot raw. A lot of it was shot at 120 frames a second, and we were doing the colour grade and everything. And I was editing all off the raw files, and the data rates were insane. And then I stupidly clicked the wrong button to render it out in uncompressed 4K, and it took nearly 17 hours or something to get my 5-minute reel done. It looked good though. That's the alarm. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, the sorry about that. So the Avid Artist I/O, that's coming out, I think, in the second half of this year. It will be a bit dearer than the Blackmagic one, but as said, the Avid DNX HR codec will make it a much more efficient tool for using for 4K editing. So we look forward to that. Thunderbolt and PCI Express interfaces, all your SDI in optical or copper. So very fully featured device, same as the Blackmagic. So that's the new thing there. Avid also released a new shared storage system. Now I'm a big fan of shared storage systems for anyone that's got multiple edit suites in a facility, because very simply it allows you to divide and conquer your projects and save time. And if you've got tight turnarounds, we've seen this in basically every facility where we've moved to a true shared storage system like this, that the cost of the storage has been more than outweighed in the hours saved with, I suppose, with people, having to wait for ingesting files and all this sort of stuff, because when you've got a shared system, we can have one system doing the ingest while you're doing the editing. You don't have to wait for stuff. So Avid released a new system called the ISIS 1000. It's not available for a while, probably I think about September, but a new compact storage system, so can be scaled up to 80 terabytes, well, they from 20 to 80, so standard comes to 20 terabytes. And scaling, and I should say here that it's 16 terabytes usable space, because there's RAID protection, you lose some of that native storage. Works with everything. One thing that Avid have done a lot of work on lately is that things like their shared storage systems, they have now, it's been qualified for a while for this, but it will run with Avid, it will run with Adobe, it will run with Final Cut, and they're all supported and approved systems to work with the ISIS. And one of the things I really liked with the ISIS storage is that whilst I would say in the projects we do, we're very much, I'd say, 90% of the projects we do are Avid based and we use the ISIS storage. But from a management point of view, we found the ISIS to be the easiest one of the lot. And that's a really big benefit in that with other systems over time, you've almost needed to have someone on staff just to manage the storage system. With the ISIS, we've certainly found in all the different cases that we've been able to leave it in a set and forget. And some of the projects we do, we work in the pinnacle of television. So think of your most annoying TV shows, Big Brother, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, these sorts of things. We rely on ISIS storage for these sorts of events. In fact, for the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, we've recently upgraded our ISIS storage. So we'll be supplying about 768 terabytes in one storage system for them to be able to record people eating cockroaches 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they'll fill it. That'll get filled within 3 weeks. So they're recording about 15 terabytes a day. There's 28 edit suites hanging off that, plus 20 live streams going in. So the system has been designed to record up to 2.4 gigabytes a second in its data rate. So it's a bit of a monster, but from a management point of view, it's one part in this whole project. We can... that's the alarm company wondering why the alarm went off. But from a management point of view, we can put in a system that size and not have to worry about it. And that's one of the things that we've really enjoyed. And we've done the same thing with Adobe Premiere systems and doing the same thing with Premiere. And we've even done Olympic Games on it with Final Cut. So people often think, oh, Avid, it has to go with the Avid software. But we've found that even with all the other different systems, that it's still the best performing storage and easiest to use by a significant margin. So on top of that, Avid released a new thing called the ISIS 1000. And price-wise, it's quite a bit more cost-effective. So this, you're looking at under $25,000 for the 20 terabyte, and then we can expand it. So compared to the existing systems, it doesn't handle the same number of clients, probably has a little bit less bandwidth per chassis. But for a lot of smaller places, it can be quite certainly a very relevant solution. We've got a little video where they can show some of the things through here, so we'll just run that now. And I promise you.
Hi, I'm Bob Russo. I'm the product designer for Avid Shared Storage Products. In this NAB this year, we're introducing a new product called the ISIS 1000. This is our entry-level ISIS, essentially the mini ISIS that people have been asking for years and years. And what I'm doing here is I'm making it's really much more of an appliance than ISIS has ever been. It's very user-friendly, very easy to use. If you're not familiar with ISIS, it's really a web-based, it's a browser-based management. So you would everything you do is via a browser. So when I log in, so I'm just going to log into it. Now this is the user interface for the ISIS, and how I work is, and this is just like if you've used ISIS in any other facility, it's very much the same. It's almost identical. So I have a concept of workspaces, so I can make these virtual volumes, right? And I can give it. I have this concept of storage groups, but I'll go into a minute. So as I create a workspace, I give it a name and I give it a size, and I can give user-specific permissions. When I create this workspace, I can say these guys have read, these guys have read and write, right? And everyone else says no. So I create the workspace. As I create this workspace, so that's called workspace 3 or workspace 2 here, I can dynamically resize the workspace at will, as many times as I want to. There's no limitation to the number of times I resize the workspace. I can make it as large as I want. I can make it for the entire storage group, or as small. So at will, I can resize the workspace. In this system here, I have 2 media packs. So a media pack is a group of 10 drives. So that's what I have in the engine. The engine is actually an embedded Linux engine, and you never really go to the Linux. This is really just like an appliance. So I have 10 drives in this media pack, and so I double click on that. I open this over. Whoops. Double click on that. I open this up, and you see these are my 10 drives. I can see if they're operational, if anything's gone wrong, right? I can look at them. And so I have these 2 media packs. Now, if I come to my storage group, the storage group, what I've done is I've collected those 2 media packs into one storage group. So I can get the aggregate bandwidth of those 2 media packs, combine them together as one. What this gives me is 2 benefits, right? One, I have the aggregate bandwidth for all those 2 media packs. The media is evenly distributed across the 2 of them, but also when I come to my workspaces, right? When I showed you quickly before, as I was creating a workspace, I had this one storage group. So in other shared storage, you get a situation where each individual chassis is its own storage group, right? What we'd call storage group. And so I can make one gigantic workspace across both of those storage groups, and I never get in this situation where I have, I want to make a 10 terabyte workspace, and I have, I have 2 on one volume, 2 on one engine, and 3 on another engine, right? I don't have quite enough to make it in one continuous storage group. So this gives me the ability to make a workspace across all of them without any issues at all, right? As far as never having to go, oh, I'm going to make a 2 on this one and a 3 on that one. I can just make one. I never have to worry about it. Right? We also do something what we call with our clients. So if I take a look at my connected clients, I can see who's working on it, right? So there's my MacBook Pro.
The important thing here is
and I can actually come in and I can dial down the bandwidth that computer's using. So I can come in and dial it down. And really almost instantaneously, you see right now it's using line rate. And almost
it's something that does the job very nicely. Facilis also released another shared storage system at a lower cost as well, which is a bit cheaper than the ISIS. I also have the Facilis system in rentals, and it works quite well. I would say the ISIS works better, but this is cheaper. So I think all I can really tell you from that point of view of what I've seen at NAB, and certainly what I've learnt from personal experience, is that you get what you pay for. I think in pretty much all the instances so far I've been dealing with different pieces of video equipment, I've found that a lot of times the expensive gear is expensive for a reason. It's generally the usability of it. You sort of think a lot of the time that the cheap stuff should be the easy stuff to use, but generally it's the other way around. That's because of the engineering R&D going into make it. That's my slideshow. Does anyone have any questions or bored you all to death?
Just a general question about LED lights.
Yep.
Did you notice an improvement this year as regards CRI and just the...
That's been constantly improving.
Yeah.
If you probably with that in that respect of CRI, they're I suppose colour temperature is a lot more accurate now. But the other thing is that the LEDs, the quality of them is much better. So we're getting I suppose they're getting better yields, better quality, and more accurate builds. So from where we sit, even with this light here, which is a few years old, to where we're at with the current ones, they've improved as well. So you could say LED lighting has probably been where we've been with LCD television over the years. That I go and look when we had CRT, we had CRT TVs. We had a good one. We'd keep them in our rentals for 6 years or so because these things produce great pictures, and we were happy with it. Each model might have added little features around the edge, but not much. With LCD, with each generation of panel, we saw quantum leaps in performance where, the early days of LCD, we were accepting, the shortcomings in performance for convenience. But now, even with LCD screens, and their latest screens are great, and the OLED technology we have with our Sony broadcast monitors, I'd choose those over CRTs now. And but to get there with those screens, I've probably had to go through 5 different generations of monitors to get to something that we've been happy with. And everyone's been better than the last, and it's the same with LED. Any other questions? Well, I think I can wrap it up. So thanks very much for coming along. Hopefully you've got something out of it, and thank you very much for coming. Cheers.